Do. Nice. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. I'm Hannah Smith. I'm with Region 5 Development Commission, and you are at the Business Bootcamp series. Today we are here with Julie, who has done one of the series already. So this is the fourth and final one. You can find all of our other videos up on our YouTube page at Region 5 Development Commission's YouTube page. Julie is with a small business development center, and she's going to be sharing business resources with us today. If you want to drop any questions, drop those in the chat, or we will have a questions and answers afterwards. So Julie, take it away, and thank you so much for joining us.
Sounds good. Thanks, Hannah. I'm happy to be here. If you attended last week's sessions, we covered a lot of information. Today will be probably a little bit more straightforward information. So I'm hoping that you get a lot of good takeaways from the resource section that we have today. So I'm going to share my screen right off the bat, and we're going to dive right into the presentation. So today is, again, our business boot camp, and we are talking about resources. In addition to covering the resources that are available for small businesses, I also have some information in the presentation on the business plan. I just want to do an overview so you have an outline of an appropriate business plan in terms of length and content. So hopefully we'll have some time to cover that today. I'm going to be sharing a lot of different screens to kind of show you information with the resources and how we can utilize them. So let's begin. So if I can press the right, there we go. A little bit about me, a little bit about my biography. I have degrees from the University of Minnesota in finance and have worked in the corporate world for Blue Cross Blue Shield and Aetna Insurance, as well as for the last almost 30 years, 20 plus years, have been doing consulting for the SBDC and other independent agencies. With the Initiative Foundation, I've done other projects for Region 5. So it's been a really fun career working with small businesses. I'm a wife, a mom, a soon-to-be grandma, and a marathoner. And I just have a picture of my family. That was actually a run we did up in Fargo. It wasn't the full marathon. We all did a half marathon, but it was the first run that my 3 kids and my husband and I did. And so I'm bragging a little bit, but that's who I am and a little bit about me. I like numbers, but I'm also, into a few other things besides financial reporting and things. So today we are going to cover business resources first. And what are business resources? And basically the information that I'm going to share to you is free advice and free information. So we want you to go to these resources and utilize them because they're free. And why? Because they're going to assist you in having a successful business for you. Whether you're either in business currently or just looking at starting a business, great resources to help you and your business be successful. How? You're going to utilize those resources to help you plan and then plan some more. I think you can always learn new things about what's happening in your industry, in the business world, and planning can really help you eliminate those unforeseen events and risks, or if you do come upon them, you'll have resources to help you guide you through those maybe troubled times or through those times where there's an issue with your business. So we really want you to use those resources to help you plan and help you be successful. And they're free, so you really should. So diving right into the list of small business resources, and the list is extensive, but I'm highlighting a few right off the bat, and we're going to go through some websites to help you get that information firsthand and know where to look for that. So some of the ones that come to mind right off the bat are the Small Business Development Center. That's what Hannah already referred to that. I'm a consultant for the Small Business Development Centers. The short term that you may have heard is SBDC, and it stands for the Small Business Development Center. We'll talk about those at length. SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives, your bankers. Region 5, who are sponsoring this, is a great resource. Initiative Foundation, local development agencies, and many others. So let's talk a little bit about what I've detailed in here. The Service Corps of Retired Executives is just that. It's a list. It's a group of people that were in the business world and they've retired from their current job and they want to help others in the business world. So they come with a wealth of experience from many different backgrounds, and we'll pop onto their website and show you some of those resources. When you are looking for a banker, you might want to find one that is of like mind. And the reason why I'm saying that is if you know that you need a banker who's really going to think about the big picture because you've got many ideas and you want that banker to work with you through those many ideas and through the growth of your business, you want to find someone that's thinking like that. It's not only about interest rates and do they have the best rates, but you want to think about someone who's going to grow with your business and want your business to thrive and grow. So when you're finding a banker or quote unquote interviewing a banker, make sure it's one that really gets you and understands how you work in that business and what you want to achieve, because you want a business banker who's going to be there to help guide you through that process. You can see that the next 3 line items, Region 5, the Initiative Foundation, and local development agencies, I have the word geographical behind them. Many of these agencies are based in a city, a county, or multiple counties. So your business or you have to reside in those counties or in that county or in that city in order to be able to utilize those services. I have a list of those in our local area, but depending on where you're located, you might have to do some research on a county or city or multiple county basis in order to see what services are available to you and where your business is going to be located. And we've got a lot of others that we're going to be talking about today. So let me slip to the next slide. And what you'll find that I presented in the PowerPoint is the name of the resource and then the website address to get you to that resource. So a few that I've again named here: SBDC, SCORE, Initiative Foundation, Region 5. You can also see I have the Entrepreneur Fund as another one. I am going to stop sharing my screen. I hope this isn't too cumbersome for just a second. And I'm going to flip over to some additional resources that we're going to be talking about. Here's where I'm going to get into the section where we're going to talk about the different resources and kind of walk through the websites a little bit. So the first one I have is the SBDC, and this is me. The SBDCs are actually under the Minnesota Deed website, and you can see that it gives you an overview of the small business development centers, what they do, that they provide pre-venture, startup consulting services. And if we also look, it says how you find your SBDC. So like I said, the SBDCs are one of those entities that are there divided into regions or counties. And you can see that there are 9 SBDCs throughout the state. I'm located in the North Central region. And if we click on that, it'll take you to the contacts in these different regions and a little blurb about each one of those areas. And it will give you some information that you can utilize when you are trying to find which SBDC that you should reach out to. So for instance, I'm with the North Central region. If we click on that, we can see the contact information here. There are some satellite centers. So the North Central region is located in Brainerd, and there are also satellite centers in Cass County, Chisago County, Kanabec, and Todd. So again, depending on where you're located, you will reach out to that SBDC that's in your area. The SBDC, they provide one-on-one consulting. Every office is set up a little bit different. For instance, our office in the North Central region, we have a very strong financial consulting basis. So we work a lot with bankers on putting together loan packaging for a client in order for them to get a loan. And so we get a lot of referrals from the bankers. We work with a lot of local development agencies that have loan funds, because we help clients access those funds and help do projections to try to secure financing. We also in our office have a marketing consultant to help do some marketing one-on-one work with that client. Every office is set up a little bit differently, but hopefully they're going to provide a lot of information and consulting service for you. And again, SBDC consulting meetings are free. You do need to register as an SBDC client, but all those services are free. And I think it's a great service and a great resource. So that would be probably my number one suggestion for you to check out as a resource is your local SBDC. Moving on to other websites that I've referred you to or resources is SCORE. So I'm going to just get out of that, for instance, for at the time, but you can find a mentor. So again, SCORE has one-on-one mentors, and they look at your business and try to match you with the business executive in that area. So there's kind of a correlation to what that business executive, their industry that they were in, as well as the industry that you are in. So you can get some one-on-one counseling. They also have current workshops where they say, take a workshop, and it could be a live webinar. You could go to their webinar library. It could be their courses on demand, and then local workshops. So for instance, if we look at their webinar library, there are oodles of topics. So for instance, here's their search engine. And if I just look at topic, let's say you have some questions on marketing, I can go to this marketing area, and you can just see the webinars that they have in place on all these different marketing topics. So just like, if you have a little extra time, even over your lunch hour, if you just want to get into a little bit more detail on a certain marketing topic, they have lots of webinars that you can access anytime. If you need to go or want to go to a specific local workshops, if we browse their workshop, they will tell you what they've got upcoming. Here's an introduction to Google in November. A lot more Google things, actually, because Google is a partner with many different economic agencies that you will find out. But here's a starting your business. This is in Illinois. If you were specifically in Illinois, they have things that are also in Spanish, which is, super interesting and available for people. Social media trends. I guess this is an old one, but I'm just looking at this tax workshop series. So if we go back and say you don't want to look at the topic in marketing, but there might be a topic in the tax arena. Let's see if they have that. Did I miss the tax? Oh, they have lots of them. Here we go, tax planning. So if we click on the tax planning, these are upcoming tax workshops that you could actually attend. And again, they'll be recorded and then they'll be in their webinar library. So SCORE is really awesome. I would say that they have one of the best libraries of information and topics that you can access. So I highly recommend for you to look at that and look at what's available through the SCORE website. Another interesting one is Legal Core. Now, Legal Core is a statewide nonprofit, and they provide free assistance. It's non-litigation, but in business law matters. They do say it's to low-income owners of small business, but I haven't really seen them turn anybody away. So if you've got a quick question that relates to a legal issue or a legal topic, I would definitely click on this website and put your information in. And what my understanding is, they will sometimes meet one-on-one with people in person in certain locations. But since we're located in the outstate area, it's very easy to use their remote or like their Zoom meeting services. And what I tell clients is be really organized with your questions, because you have a limited amount of time. It is an hour, but it's an hour of free advice. And so if you have some specific legal questions, this is a great resource for you to go to and utilize their services for free. So that is Legal Core. And again, all these services are listed in my PowerPoint with their website addresses. Let's go to NCETA. Let's go to Region 5, which is the organization that's supporting our presentation today. They've got a specific business section and technical assistance section. And with some planning, some banking services. Is owning a business the right thing for you to do? The roadmap, your guide. So not only will Stephanie Barney, who is the person that runs their loan programs, but there are other people in the organization that could provide some technical assistance or be there for some questions for you as you're starting a business. Like NCETA or Region 5, the Initiative Foundation also has services for if you are looking at starting a business in financing and in workshop development and workshop. So the Initiative Foundation has specific financing programs available that you could reach out to their financing people to talk about if there's a need for financing in your business. So they're also just a great resource, not only from a loan standpoint, but if they've got upcoming workshops related to business. And they do work a lot with nonprofits, but that doesn't mean that they don't also have information if you are a for-profit business. So like NCETA, the Initiative Foundation is set up in regions. So depending on where you're at, there's a different Initiative Foundation partner for that specific region. In our central Minnesota area, we work with the Initiative Foundation that's located in Little Falls. But there are multiple Initiative Foundations across the state because they were originally set up by the McKnight Foundation. And rather than having just one big organization, they broke it down regionally as well. So again, you might need to do a bit more research to see what foundation is in your area. But again, a good resource for you to utilize. If we continue on other resources, let's look at the Minnesota Office of the Secretary of State. So the Secretary of State has a lot of different resources. So this is their main website page, and you can see on this page, they have, if you want to find a business, start a business, register a business. So let's just click on this starting a business tab. And if we do that, it says, here's some links that you can visit to on right here to say, how do you start a business in Minnesota? It's types of business, naming your business, business resources. So let's just click on this. So business resources, if we see some additional highlighted areas, a guide to starting a business in Minnesota. And again, I've specifically detailed this out in our PowerPoint, but if we click on this, it's going to link us to specific questions and specific information on just starting a business. And frequently asked questions before you start organizing a business finance basics. So let's just click on that. And if we look at our business finance basics, is it going to get me any information? There we go. Again, we have, there's specific topic areas just related to business finance, business financing options, before you borrow, meeting with lenders, here's some insight, business loan agreements, such a great amount of information. And this is all free to you, and it's on the Secretary of State's website. I want to get to one resource. Let me find, I think it's going to be, it's a guide to starting a business in Minnesota, which is a really great resource. And I've linked this specifically. Let me see if it's on how to start. Nope. Sorry, I should have had this planned, but I will link it. I have another place to link it to that I will show you. Another really important thing is registering your business, and you will do that through your Secretary of State. So if we link on that, it's going to give you basically an online way to how to register your business. So also, if you look at registering your business, the business filings online, if I click on that, it's going to give you ways to, register your business. If you're going to be an LLC, if you're going to be an S Corp, it gives you prices on how much that's going to cost, as well as an online method to go ahead and do that. Sometimes you might enlist the services of a lawyer or an accountant to register your business as an LLC or an S Corp or whatever entity is appropriate for you. But you don't have to pay somebody to do that. You can go online to the Minnesota Secretary of State and follow their prompts and follow their methods of how to do that, and do that on your own. There's always a registration fee, because that's just the filing fee for the state of Minnesota, but you don't necessarily have to pay extra to have somebody else do that for you. You can do that yourself. So all that information is on the Minnesota Secretary of State's website. Let me look at that. Okay. I want to make sure that I've covered all these that I have in here. So you can see lots of different websites. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and flip you back over to my PowerPoint, and making sure that I've got that all in, so we can go back and look at some of these specific addresses. So let me share my screen. There we go. Here we go. Thank you. Sorry for that being kind of clunky. So what, again, I have in the resource contacts are the main website address to get you to the website, to give you to the SBDC, to SCORE, Initiative Foundation. Entrepreneur Fund is another local and organization that runs more in that northern or northeastern Minnesota. If we look at some other entities that we have, oh, why is it not letting me forward to this screen? There we go. Here I've got Legal Core. Here I have your some other entities. So your accountant or your CPA is a really good resource for you to look at. And some people are going, I don't have an accountant or I don't have a CPA, but finding one in your area that can work with you, potentially setting up and figuring out what business structure you should have from a tax perspective, because there are some tax benefits for you to be potentially an LLC or an S Corp, or in your particular situation, one might be better than the other. And you really don't know what that is going to be unless you talk to your accountant or your CPA, who can give you that business structure advice from a tax perspective. Talking to a lawyer is another good resource that you should access. There may be some charge for talking to your CPA or a lawyer, but it might be well worth it to make sure that you're set up appropriately and have the correct business structure. The lawyer can tell you how your personal assets can be protected from in case somebody sues you. Because if you're only a sole proprietorship and not set up like an LLC, a limited liability corporation, or a subchapter S corporation, if you are a sole proprietor, sometimes your business assets are not only your business assets, but your personal assets are all also at risk if someone sues you. So you want to make sure that you are protecting as many assets as you can. And that's why chatting with a lawyer and finding out what business structure is best for you is a really important call to make, unless your CPA can give you that advice as well. And sometimes they can give tax as well as that legal advice as to what corporate structure you should be set up as. Another person that you might want to talk to before starting a business is your insurance agent, because those insurance policies are going to help protect your assets. And from those insurance policies, there may be a specific way that it makes sense to structure your business to give you that maximized protection from an insurance standpoint. So I lump these three together, your accountant, your lawyer, and your insurance agent, to always have that open-ended conversation of what's the best entity, or how should I best set up my company from a legal, a tax, and an insurance perspective. And you might think, where do I find that CPA? Where do I find that lawyer? Where do I find that insurance agent? Again, you're going to maybe look at more than one, maybe interview more than one, and make sure you feel comfortable with the advice that they're giving you, or how you work with that person. Can you relate to them? Are they speaking your same language? Will they guide you into the future as your business grows and expands? So chatting with more than one and feeling, getting that gut feeling is if that's the right person to work with, or maybe you get the feeling like, no, this isn't the person that I should be working with. So take some time and interview and do some research as to who you should be working with for your accountant, your lawyer, and your insurance agent. Moving on, we've already talked about Legal Core, and we've looked at that website a little bit for that free tax advice. So that's a really great resource. Other resources that you can tack onto would be trade associations. For your specific industry, is there an organization that you should join? Is there a trade association that makes sense for you to join? Now, there may be some costs that you might have some dues associated with that, but they could be a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of resource as you either start that business in that particular industry or grow your business. The other thing that I want to mention about that trade association is sometimes they even have their own insurance company that they recommend, and you might be able to join a group of businesses in that particular industry, and it could actually decrease your insurance costs. So that might be one thing that you look at right off the bat before you enter into an insurance contract with another entity, is to see if that trade association has some benefits from an insurance standpoint that you could decrease rates, because they kind of commingle those businesses to reduce the risk and and spread out that risk over that whole industry. So that may be one thing to check. Local chambers of commerce. Joining your local chamber could be another great resource if there's other like businesses or just other smart people or smart business owners that you can tap into from that chamber of commerce situation, because chambers have they call them like social after hours, or socials during the noon hour, or even breakfast socials that you can get together and exchange business cards, exchange business ideas, make those connections. And that could be a really great resource for you, and even using as a marketing tool for you to get started to just make those connections in the business community. Again, there's a charge to join a chamber, but it could be well worth it with all the benefits and the information that you could gain from attending those socials or those meetings. I always say too, for people, if you're going to join a chamber, make sure you utilize that chamber membership as best you can. So in other words, if you just join the chamber, but you don't go to any of the business before hours or the business after hours or any of those noon meetings, maybe it's not a good use of your money. But if you are going to go to all those meetings, pass out business cards, ask questions of other business owners, that chamber membership might be golden for you. So that's kind of a personal thing and how you're going to use it, but it could be a great resource. You can see that I have family and friends down here. So why do I have family and friends? They could be quote unquote your focus group. So let's say you're starting a business and you're testing out a name or testing out a business location, and you talk to your family or friends and they give you the thumbs up, or they say, this name, it doesn't quite click. What about this name? Or what about this logo look? Or what about this font to use on your website? They could be just a wealth of knowledge and resource information from that whole marketing perspective or branding perspective or location perspective. Definitely ask those questions, because if your family and friends don't like the look of your logo, more than likely the general population is not going to like the look of your logo. So really utilize that free advice that you can get from your family and friends. It might not always be what you want to hear, but maybe it's what you need to hear, or maybe it just gives you a different or more well-rounded perspective. So ask family and friends when you've got questions or information. Sometimes they're also even a lending source. If you need a little extra cash injection into your project, maybe there's a family member who would be willing to do a short-term loan for you. You never know. So just, utilizing that, them as a great resource, I think is a really good idea. I have the internet down here as well, because the internet, if you literally just Google a certain topic, you're going to find oodles of information. When you Google how to start a business, a lot of the resources that I put up there in this presentation are going to be included in that particular Google search. But you're going to come across a lot more if you put a certain industry that you're in. Now, sometimes you're going to have to pay for those services. And do you really want to do that? Probably not necessarily. But sometimes you might just need to be added to an email list, and maybe you're okay with that to gather a bit more information. So the internet can really be your friend with searching out additional resources and how you might want to utilize them. This resource is in the PowerPoint, and it is called A Guide to Starting a Business in Minnesota. This is produced by Deed. That Deed website, you'll be able to find this, but I do have the direct link on there. And this is an awesome book. It's not necessarily light reading, and I want to say it's like 180 pages, but it has a ton of resources. Let me just get you to the index, because it has all these different sections of information. So remember when I talked about choosing the right business organization and business structure? It has a detailed section on each of these. If it's a sole proprietorship, if it's a corporation, if it's an LLC, it has all that detailed information that you need to know about. So maybe even before you talk to a lawyer or your CPA, you might want to go online, look at this PDF, look at those sections where it talks about being an LLC, because then you'll be more prepped to have the right questions in your mind when you're meeting with that CPA or meeting with that lawyer. It'll talk about some business permits if you need them. It even has a section on accounting, on business loans, different structures. It's it has 180 pages of information. So it has a section on insurance, business taxes, state programs, federal programs, libraries of information. And the last part of it, and I'm going to go way down to the end because this is a really great resource. Oh, it's actually 300 pages. They've made it bigger. This whole end section is a regulated activity, who regulates it, and what the contact information is. So for instance, if you were going to be a taxidermy business, they have who administers the taxidermy license, what the department is, and a telephone number. So such great resource. Before all these regulated activities, it has a whole nother section on agencies. Let me get to that. I'm almost there. So here's agencies on different things where it's not regulated, but if you want information on commercial kitchens and CSAs, they've got information on that. County licensing agencies by county, city licensing by city. So such a not only great resource from an information standpoint, but also from an agency, whether it's city, county, state, federal, it has that contact information. So such a great resource. At the SBDC, we used to give out the books, which are this thick, but this PDF that's online is so much easier to maneuver, and the information will be current because Deed produces these books on an annual basis. So they do some updating on an annual basis. But if you just go to that link and go to the Deed website, you're going to get the new book each year every time you look at it. The information doesn't change greatly, but there's always some updates with new agency information and things like that. So again, it is called A Guide to Starting a Business in Minnesota. It's going to look like this. It's going to be produced or updated on an annual basis, a wealth of knowledge, and it's all there on the website. So I highly recommend you taking a look at that and looking at specific information that you have questions for. And again, if you do that in preparation of you meeting with people who you're going to have to probably pay money to meet with, whether that's a lawyer or an accountant, if you can be prepped, it should hopefully save you money because you'll know that base level of information and then be really ready to ask the specific questions that you need to ask of those professionals. And hopefully that'll minimize the dollar amount that you'll have to spend on getting that information from those professionals. So a great wealth of knowledge. It's going to be linked in that PowerPoint, and it is through the Minnesota Department of Economic and Employment Development, which is Minnesota Deed. So again, I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to link back to our PowerPoint and get us to a continued resource. So let me share my screen one more time. And here's that Minnesota Secretary of State. Here's the Minnesota Department of Deed with the guidebooks. There are other guidebooks that the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development have. They have guidebooks on hiring and firing employees, some human resources. If you're specifically a childcare entity, they have a guidebook on that. So checking out this Deed website with all these guidebooks, links, and other resources, as well as a guide to starting a business in Minnesota that we just looked at, such a huge wealth of knowledge. So really a great spot to look. I want to look at a few of these other local development organizations. So if you remember at the beginning of our presentation, I talked about some agencies being geographically located. Here are a few that I would just like to point out if you are in this central Minnesota region. So for instance, Grow Brainerd Lakes is BLADEC, Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation. If you are located in the Brainerd Lakes area, this is a great resource. Morrison County Community Development. So if you're located in Morrison County, here's the link to get to that local Morrison County Economic Development Agency. Cass and Todd County also have local economic development agencies. So I'm pointing these out in this PowerPoint. If you're located in one of these counties, you can go to that link directly. If it's not specifically one of these counties, I didn't list it for every county in Minnesota, but just Google local economic development agency in this particular county, and it should link you to the county that you should work at or work with, depending on where you're located. So these entities usually have a main person on staff or maybe a couple people on staff. They may have a loan program. They may provide individual one-on-one consulting. They would be a great resource for local lawyers to use, for CPAs to use, potentially for insurance agents. They may also say, yes, our county works with this SBDC office, or this is the SCORE person or the SCORE contact in this particular county. So just a great wealth of or great resource to use. And again, they're geographically based, usually by county, sometimes by multiple counties, sometimes by city. So I'm not giving you specific information because for every county or every city or every location in the state of Minnesota, because it would be an exhaustive list, but that's where that internet search comes in handy, and you can find those internet resources on your own. So going back and using this as a starting point should work. And again, here is where we talked about the accounting, the accountant, the lawyer, the insurance, the trade association, the chamber of commerce, the family and friends, and just generally the information of the internet can be very valuable. So as we move on, why do we look at all this? Why do you make these contacts? Why do you plan? And I always say it's better to fail on paper than to fail in the real world. So if you do this work, if you do this preparation, if you do this resource, we're hopefully, or it's hopefully putting you in a better position for your business to be successful. Now, you can't predict everything in the future, but if you do some planning and you do some work on the front end and work with the professionals that know your industry, that know what legal issues you may have, that know how to set up your tax structure, that know how to help you with general business consulting, like the SBDC or SCORE. If you are planning and you do work on paper before you actually put those practices into the real world, hopefully you'll be a lot more successful. I use this picture because you better believe that this rock climber didn't just all of a sudden hop up one morning and spring out of bed and say, I'm going to climb this rock. He did a lot of preparation. He did a lot of research on this particular rock. He got his body into shape to climb that rock. That's exactly what you're doing when you access these resources and do all this planning to hopefully prep yourself and put your business or your business startup in the best position possible to be successful. So we just spent the last 45 minutes talking about business resources, and I've given you a lot of them, giving you the website to guide you through that information sifting and that information process. What else is really helpful and a part of the planning that I'm hoping that you either are doing with your business startup or have done with your business is writing a business plan. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more. What is a business plan, why you should write it, and what's a reasonable outline to use. So a business plan, let's talk about the basics, is basically, it's the story of your business. Why do you write a business plan? A business plan, it actually lays out your plan for your business. It sets goals, and it could be necessary for funding. We'll talk about that a little bit later. How is a business plan written? It's written narratively, like you're telling a story about your business in a professional style or a professional manner and an appropriate length. So what do I mean by that? Written narratively, tell your story. People say in my consulting business, they'll say, Julie, will you write my business plan for me? And I'll say, absolutely not, because your business plan is your story. If it's not up here in your head, it should be. So maybe you have to do a little bit more research to write the business plan fully. But when I say written narratively, it's got to come from your voice. If you don't have a very technical voice, then having a technically written business plan is going to sound odd. It should come from your mind, from your voice. That's why I say written narratively. It's like you telling the story of your business. It should be professional, and that you should use a lot of slang, or the grammar should be appropriate, but it's still coming from your voice. And when I say an appropriate length, no one's going to read a business plan that's 50 pages. What we usually tell our clients, it maybe is 5 to 8 pages of narrative text. There may be some appendices that you add some information, but you really want to be succinct and tell your story in an appropriate length, because people aren't going to read a business plan that's 50 pages. Who has time to probably read that much information? But would they have time to read a 5 or 6 or 8 page business plan? Probably yes. So it's the story of your business. It lays out your plans. It's necessary for funding. It's written narratively in a professional style at an appropriate length. So that's basically what your business plan is. So sometimes when you start out, your business plan could seem like this. If you look at all these words, it's kind of a mumbo jumbo, and you think of, where do I start? How do I do this? What information do I include? What do I not include? What we want to do in this outline is kind of clarify all these maybe ideas or thoughts that are going through your head, or maybe that apprehension of sitting down and writing a business plan. We want to clarify that and simplify it and give you an outline that's easy to follow and doable for everybody. So here's the business outline, the outline that we use for our clients at the Small Business Development Center. You're going to start off with the title page, and we're going to go through these all individually, but the first page is just like, has your logo, has the title, has the date, has who are the business owners. You may include a mission. I've worked with a lot of nonprofits, and nonprofits always have a mission. But I think it's okay and appropriate and actually responsible for a for-profit entity to also have your mission. And what is that mission? What do you want to accomplish with your business? And putting that in your business plan, or maybe even on your first page, I think is appropriate, because it sets the tone for what those readers can expect, because they know what your purpose and what your mission is of your business. The next section is an executive summary, or you're describing your business. It should have, the next 4 sections are really the 4 main functional areas of a business, which is marketing, operations, management, and financial. So within that business plan, you're going to have little mini marketing, a plan for marketing, operations, management, and financial. All that information, because those are going to cover the main functional areas of your business, which totally makes sense. And it makes sense to organize your business plan in those functional areas, because it's very clear to the reader what you're talking about and what information you're providing in this particular section. And lastly, you may have some appendices. So I always say a picture is worth 1,000 words, or you hear that. So maybe a picture of including your logo, or maybe a picture of a mock-up of a marketing ad would be a really good thing to add. A floor plan of your business, a map of your geographical location in the community. All those appendices might be great things to add to give extra information to your business plan for those readers. Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit further. The title page is your first section, and it's going to have all the pertinent information, your name, your address, your logo. Maybe if you're going to have any part of your business plan be in color, it might be this title page, because if your logo has a certain splash with that color, or when it's colorized, if you can do your title page in color, that would be awesome. And again, it could have your mission statement. So this is kind of like what I tell people. When you hire your receptionist, you want that person, or the person answering your phone, that's the first impression of outsiders that outsiders have of your business. This is also the first, that title page is the first impression that the readers will have of your business. So definitely no grammatical errors, no spelling errors, clean, crisp, good information on that title page, because that's that first impression. Okay, so as we move on from that title page, the next section is the business description, or some people call that the executive summary. That kind of summarizes or gives an overview of the whole business plan. This is a super important section, because even though your business plan might be only 5 to 10 pages or 5 to 8 pages of text, maybe it's the only section that people actually read, and then they flip over to the appendices to look at the pictures and look at those graphs, or that the ads, or those that floor plan, or that geographic location map. It may be the only part that they read or really read. So it's really important to have the appropriate information in there, as much information as you can in that 1 page or 1 or 2 page summary. It might be the easiest to write last, because since it's a summary of everything, it's going to summarize your marketing plan, your operations plan, your management plan, your finance plan. So if you write this last, you have all that data to go back and look at to summarize in this executive summary or your business description. Sometimes it might include your future plans and goals. So not only where you're at from your business perspective, but what are your future plans? What's your goal? If you want to obtain financing, you might list that in your executive summary, that your ultimate goal is to secure financing for a business expansion or a business startup, and that's okay. Another way that you can also think of the executive summary or this business description is maybe you do this in chronological order. So it might give a synopsis of what your history was, where you're at currently, and where you want to be in the future. So it gives you some options of how you're going to summarize all the information that you're providing in your business plan. It could be just in a general layout. It could be in chronological order. It could be you could start off with not the history, but where you're at currently and what you want to achieve in your future. So again, very important that it's written and includes kind of a full synopsis of your whole business plan, and make sure it reads well, because it might be the only page that people read. So that's after your title page, you have this business description or executive summary. What's next is your marketing section. So your keys to marketing are price, place, product, and promotion. So you may, and those are just basically the 4 P's of promotion that you've probably heard of many times. But in your marketing plan, you would want to include those 4 P's, or you could structure it where you have what your situation is currently. You define your product and define your competitors, what you want to achieve in your marketing plan, how you're going to achieve those objectives. So your marketing objectives and your strategy would be laying out how you're going to, the strategy of how you're going to achieve those objectives. And then the marketing tactics could be a budget or a timeline. So maybe you have in your actual text of your marketing plan, you have the dollar amount of your budget, but in your appendices, maybe you include an actual outline of your marketing budget. because that will give you more detail. And maybe in that marketing budget is the timeline. I want to achieve this by this date, this by this date. So people have a very clear plan on what your overall analysis of your current situation is, what your objectives are in marketing, what your strategy and what your budget and your timeline looks for that strategy. So that might be a way that you put that together. So that's your marketing plan. Covers the 4 Ps. Could look at it from building up to that top level of your situation right now, getting down to that detailed level of your budget and your timeline. The next operating section is, or excuse me, the next functional section of your business plan is operation, how you put the pieces together. So your operations plan should include what you do and how you do it. So if you're a manufacturer, when you say what you do, you might step them through that operational process and how you fulfill each step of that operation process. If you're a retail business, you're not manufacturing, so it might be that you talk about your vendors, who you get product from, the seasonality of your product, because that's what you do and how you do it. That's what your operations plan is going to cover. It might also talk about your location, again, that geographic location, and your facilities. Do you have one facility? Do you have multiple facilities? Do you rent? Do you buy? Or excuse me, do you own? So talking about the facilities or your location in that operations plan is very important. And again, this might be where you include in that appendix a layout of your floor plan of your store, or a floor plan of your manufacturing process. In your operations plan, you may also talk about your labor force, because how you manufacture and what your labor force looks like is important. You could include maybe a labor chart or an organizational, like a employee description chart in this operations plan to say, this is our manufacturing manager. He has these people working under him, who have those people working under them. So that might be a really good way to describe what you do and how you do it under that operations plan. If we live in a very seasonal region in this area, usually the summer months are much busier than the winter months. So you might talk about your hours of operation, and do they change from the summer to the winter? What's the seasonality of your business? Is it busier in certain months than others? Or if you're manufacturing and it's a summer product, then you're going to be busier in the winter because you've got to prep and build all that product to get it out to your businesses for them to sell in the summer months. So talking about that seasonality and potentially your manufacturing process is going to be important. So the second functional area after marketing is operations. And again, that's what you do and how you do it. That's what you want to answer in this part of your business plan. The structure, a business needs it. So here's where we get under organization and management. So what is your business structure? We talked about, is it a sole proprietorship? I'm assuming most of you will not be a sole proprietorship because you want to protect your personal assets. And so therefore you're going to be an LLC or an S Corp potentially. So you're going to talk about that business structure under this management and organizational plan. What's your organizational structure? So here's where you might have an organizational chart that has everybody. So here's the owner, here's the people here's the manager, here are the employees that work underneath them. For some businesses, you may not have this because there might be only 3 or 4 employees. So it's really easy to not have a chart, but just describe the key people and who those people are in your organization. As we talk about in the next step, who are the key management people that really are important to run your business. It may also be that under professional support, you talk about who is the lawyer that you work with, Who's your CPA? Do you have a bookkeeper? Is there is there a trade association that you're a part of? All those kind of professional organization or professional people that you either pay for or are part of your resources that you can reach out to help manage and run your operation. Include those in your business plan, because if you go to a bank for a loan and they see you have all these people that you're working with and can help you work through situations or problems, that's awesome information to share. And they can see that you're really on top of your game and aren't just dependent on yourself for everything, but you have some people in professional situations that can help you. I know I've been listed under people's organization and management section because they work with me at the SBDC, or they work with another consultant at the SBDC, and they include that in the business plan, and that's okay. If you specifically work with a score counselor, put that in there, because that's another resource that can help you through situations that could be tricky. And people want to know that you're not kind of like the Lone Ranger out there by yourself, but you've enlisted these other resources to help you run a successful business. If you specifically have laws and regulations that you need to adhere to, mentioning them and including maybe that license in your business plan as part of your appendix is perfect. So if you're a hairstylist and you have to have a license to operate in the state of Minnesota, include a copy of that license in there. What regulations do you need to adhere to? Address those in your organization and management plan, because that shows that you know what they are and that you're adhering to them, and your bankers love to see that. And plus, you should just be on top of that anyway. So all those things in terms of how you're going to manage your business, how it's going to be structured, what laws and regulations you need to adhere to are going to be part of that organization and management plan. And again, I just want to reiterate, if this stuff isn't in your head and you have to do some research for this, that's okay. Do the research and make sure you put it in here. And hopefully this might maybe spur some questions oh, I hadn't thought about that, or what about this? Yes, I need to do some research, and yes, I need to put it into my business plan. The last functional area that we want to talk about that you should have in your business plan is your financial plan. So if you're already in business, you would want to include historical financial statements, maybe your most recent year-end taxes or your most recent profit and loss and balance sheet. And if you were at my session last week, we talked about understanding your profit and loss, which is the same thing as an income statement, and understanding your balance sheet. Well, make sure that those most recent ones are included in your financial section. They could be a part of your appendices, but you may talk about, there might be some verbiage that you talk about your financials and how they're set up, and how you analyze them on a weekly or a monthly basis. And that could be part of that financial plan. If you're not a business that's already in, or if you're not an entity that's already in business, you might just include your financial projections. So usually we do a 2-year projection, because if you go out any farther than that, the information usually isn't great. But you'd want to include those projections as well as the assumptions that you've made in developing those projections. And that would be part of the information that you would include in that financial section. Your bankers would like to see that as well as just having that information and making sure you do that on an annual basis. Those projections on an annual basis for sure is super important. So those are the main functional areas, and included, we talked about the appendices already. So it might be the floor plan of your building, the organizational chart of your employees. You might have a pricing sheet, examples of advertisements, pictures of your building that you work at, other financial information, and just other things that are pertinent. If there's any licensing requirements or certifications that you have, include that as part of your business plan in that appendix section if there's not another appropriate area. So as we talked about, just to summarize, your business plan is going to start off with that title page. It's going to include an executive summary or business description that you're probably going to write last. It's going to cover the 4 main functional areas of business, which are management, marketing, operations, organization/management, and then financial. And then lastly, it's going to have that appendix section with all those other pictures or other additional information that are important that you're not going to write about, but include in the business plan that people can refer to. So the most important thing is you're going to complete one. Maybe there's a board. If you're a big enough organization, maybe you have a board or an advisory board, or if you're a nonprofit, you have a board for sure that they're going to want to review. You personally want to review that business plan periodically, because are you meeting your goals? Are you following your plan? If you're not meeting your goals, why aren't you following your plan? Does your plan need to be adjusted? And every once in a while, it's just good to go back to that base of why you started the business, what you were thinking, what your plan was. Is it going as planned? And if it's not, do you need to readjust? And hopefully you'll be on a better path if you do readjust. But then adjust that business plan so you can review that in the next month, 3 months, 6 months to make sure you're on track. I say update at least once a year or when required. And what I mean by when required, if you're going for financing, they're going to require an updated business plan in order to secure that financing. And so that would be a reason to update it maybe sooner than once a year. But having that business plan and having it updated and revisiting it and working through the process and working through that plan is really important, because it keeps you on track. It keeps you focused. It makes sure, it helps you make sure that you're going down that right path, and hopefully that path is a successful path. So in a perfect world, you plan, you utilize your resources. So when a business or a person comes up with an idea, they have many thoughts. They're accessing those resources. They come up with a plan, and hopefully that plan will put the wheels in motion, that their business will be successful, and not only from a profitability standpoint, but a longevity standpoint, that you're meeting your mission, that you're fulfilling your goals. And hopefully your whole business proposal and business proposition and plan and actual results will work into this, like this gentleman's, where he came up with an idea. He did a lot of planning, but that planning was worth it because his business was very successful. And that's what I hope for all of you. So I'm going to stop sharing. That was basically the information that I wanted to provide on resources, as well as the basics for a business plan. I actually covered that pretty quick. So I don't know, Hannah, if you want to run that chat line, and if anybody has any questions or things that we want to revisit, I'm more than happy to go back to a certain slide, answer a certain question, wherever we need to go to next.
Hey, Julie, I just wanted to add something. I loved your advice about the Chamber of Commerce, and my son is a chiropractor, and after graduating, he moved to the Fargo area and promptly joined the Chamber of Commerce and got involved with a networking group. And that was really good for him to get to know other business professionals and the area, and also they're going to put you on their website. So I don't know how much dues are exactly, but it's some good marketing as well. And I was going to ask you, what's your single piece of advice for somebody thinking about starting a business? But I think I may have guessed what it was. Do your homework. Do you think?
Plan, plan, plan. And you know, so let me comment first about your Chamber of Commerce comment. I could not agree more. Yes, it is an expense, it's a cost, but it sounds like your son is utilizing the chamber like he should. So he's going to meetings, he's putting himself out there, he's probably passing out a ton of business cards, he's asking a lot of questions. And that's, if you're going to do that, and your personality, because some people, they would rather do anything than go to like those social functions, but you really need to. If you're going to start your business, you need to put yourself out there. So utilizing the chamber from that perspective is great. And then the second thing you mentioned, Stephanie, is that online guide, because when you Google a specific Chamber of Commerce, they're always going to probably have that resource directory. So someone moving into the area, so they're moving into that Fargo Moorhead area, they're going to go to that guide, they're going to Google or look for chiropractors, your son's name is going to pop up. So from that marketing perspective, that's so important. I know some people that are members of the chamber, they don't go to those meetings, but they specifically say it's worth it for me to join that chamber because I'm going to be in that online or that printed guidebook, and I'm going to be in that listing for people moving into the community. So I just wanted to reiterate, that's a super important and can be a super good way to get into that marketing of that community. And then a lot with the planning, people really do need to plan. It's that picture where the mountain climber is, it's better to fail on paper than fail in the real world. So important. Because not only do you want to plan from all those different perspectives of marketing, operation, management, and financial, but it could be something as specific as timing of, you know, you're going to start your business, but starting a business in our area in November is not good because, right, we're a very seasonal area. You want to plan, and probably start, your actual starting date might be the end of April or early May. So you hit the ground running in September. If you start your business in November, you have all those months of low sales. So you've got lots of expenses going out, but maybe not a lot of income coming in. And that's part of that planning process, is just knowing the seasonality of your business, knowing when to start, when's the appropriate time to start. And I always say, gosh, we have all these free resources, access them, take some time. The other part about the planning is, a good example of this is if you're a restaurant and your opening date is before you're ready, can just be super hard to get over. So let's say you don't have enough staff, your menu isn't really perfected, your kitchen staff doesn't really know what they're doing. You open up and those customers come in and they have too long of a wait, a bad meal, their servers don't know what's going on. That's the wrong foot to start off on. And sometimes people don't recover very easily for those bad starts. So they should have waited. They should have planned. They should have prepped their kitchen staff, their wait staff, their menu more on the front end, because their first day, if that customer walks in, they have a great meal, the staff was courteous, they didn't have to wait long. That's going to be a total different impression that they have, that they go out and tell their friends of this positive experience. Then those friends tell two friends who tell two friends, versus a negative experience. They tell two friends, then those two friends tell two friends. That's all planning and preparation, and being starting at when you should, not just to make a start date. So utilizing those resources and planning, yes, is super important. And hopefully that answered your question,
It
Stephanie.
did. Thanks for this, such great practical information. I appreciate you so much, Julie.
You're welcome. Hannah, do we have some other questions in the chat room, or did we cover them?
I'm not seeing any right now. That was kind of my first question too. So first and only question right in this moment was, that was a lot of information. There's a lot of resources out there. Maybe you have advice on like where to start. Like, I think if I put myself in a position of like, oh, I'm going to start a new business, and then seeing this presentation, I would feel a little bit overwhelmed. So is there a link that I should click on first? Where do I start planning?
Okay, the two places that I would start is, if you don't, meeting with someone like me at the SBDC, really finding that SBDC in your area and reaching out to them to hopefully do a meeting one-on-one, because then you can just maybe sort out your questions or have that consultant help you get a plan of action. Because you're right, sometimes where do you start? There's so many things. So where do you even start? Okay, so I would say meeting with an SBDC counselor or a SCORE mentor would be two great places to start. If you don't even feel like you want to put yourself out and have a face-to-face meeting yet, I would say going to the deed website and downloading that PDF, the guide to starting a business in Minnesota. Because yes, it's 300 pages of information. Not everything is going to be applicable to you, but just giving you that starting point of reading through what you need to know when you start a business, who to reach out to, just getting acclimated with the terminology. Sometimes even you don't even know what people are talking about, but that will allow you to go to the sections that you need information on and process that information at your pace. You can go back and reread the page 4 times if you need to, right? And get a better perspective on the whole process and what you need to do. And maybe that's a good first step for people before they even meet with a counselor. The third thing I would add, maybe if they have a friend who's a lawyer or have a friend who's a CPA, maybe going out and having a cup of coffee with that person and just talking about that business startup, that might be another really good place to start, just to get them that base information and where to move forward from there. Does that hopefully answer that question, Hannah?
Yeah, that was super helpful. Thank you again so much, Julie, for coming and hanging out with us and sharing your expertise with both Region 5 and our YouTube channel. For people watching the video online, we have 3 other videos in this series, and you can find them on our channel. Julie, is there a way that we get a hold of you if we have any more questions? Or
so the best way to get a hold of me is actually through our SBDC office. And that main number is 218-855-8140. I think I did that right. I'm going to go back, 8140. And because that'll get you in the process of, okay, so hold on a second. I'm wanting to make sure that I have the right number. This is going to sound bad. Since COVID, we are doing a lot of meetings via Zoom. So yes, 218-855-8140. And actually going to that SBDC website and just clicking on North Central Region, there will be a website address that you can link, and our director will link if I'm the most appropriate person to talk to, because my background is finance, but maybe you've got a question that relates to marketing. You might get assigned to a different counselor because that person will have more good marketing information for you versus me. So I would say going back to that website and getting that, emailing our director or the director of that appropriate SBDC region is the best way.
Awesome. And you can navigate to that site at mn.gov/deed, DEED/business/help/SBDC.
Yeah,
Um,
and
and
Hannah, they will all have they'll have access to the PowerPoint via the YouTube, right?
yes,
Channel, perfect.
Yep.
So all those website addresses are detailed there, and should get you to the home pages of all those resources, and then you click through from there.
perfect. And we can also link that in the notes underneath the channel, and it is currently linked in our chat on the Zoom. Any more questions, Stephanie, and people who are on today?
I was just going to say also the recordings are on our website. You can easily access them on our website, and we can share the PowerPoints as well, but you can see them when you watch the recording. But
yeah, sharing the PowerPoint would be great with those links. That would be awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and we don't have a question here, but a comment. Thank you so much for the great information.
Good, good. I hope it was helpful, even just a little bit, in getting that first. Sometimes the first step is the worst, and you get that first step done, and then the momentum just goes and carries you through. So perfect. I hope it helped.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.